Ooh,
All right, we back.
we got people.
We're late, but we're back.
We're not too late.
It's not that bad. Not that bad at all.
But yeah, sorry. Good morning, everyone.
I've kind of forgotten how to do all this. What are you doing?
I'm trying to get the chat pulled up on here.
I'll do the introduction. You do that.
Well, yeah, you won.
Yeah. Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason.
I'm Nicole.
And today is our first reading.
Do you see that?
It's off-center now.
It's better. Oh.
Like, quite off-centered. It was
Yeah.
fine.
It was like way crooked.
Today's our first reading of Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. That's fine. And so far, I'm loving it. Sorry, this is...
We're fine. We're fine.
We've been off for a month of Sundays. And it's obvious.
So, if this is your first time joining us, please make sure that you have read through part 3 of Tress of the Emerald Sea before watching this video, because we're going to talk about everything as if you have also already read it. So if you haven't read it, just stop and then go read and then come back, and we'll be glad to have you. So if you're joining us live, we love for you to participate in the chat section so that we can see what you've been thinking about it. And if you're catching the replay, please comment in the comment section below so that we can see what you're thinking about it, because we love to relive the books. We are also on YouTube Music as a podcast in case you want to hear us but not see us. And we're on Goodreads a little bit if you want to join the chat there. I type some random things about the books, and I mostly just respond to other people when they're talking about stuff. So, we have tons of other books playlisted for you if there's something else you might be interested in. Mm-hmm. And tell us what you think about the book so far.
We are. I see everybody saying they're happy to be back. We are also happy to be back. So.
I mean, we did the Monday thing just because we felt like we kind of had to, just to keep going. But it wasn't the same. Yeah. We missed you.
And this is episode 70, which is crazy that, like, pretty much all of us have been here 70 weeks now.
Oh, yeah.
You know? That's really crazy. Yeah, that's really crazy.
That's a lot.
We'll have to do something special for our 100, right?
Yeah,
our centennial episode. Yeah. So, as we begin talking about this book, while Nicole is getting her thing booted up, I want to say this. Brandon Sanderson, the author of this book, has his own YouTube channel. And he is very active in it. He posts weekly. And he posts like updates and stuff about different series he's writing. I'll talk in a little bit about how this book I think is different from some of his others. But if you've never read him before, I highly recommend continuing. And I might pick some of the books I've never read of his for future reads of ours. Anyway, the point being is that this week he happens to have put out a video about his suggested reading order for his universe. Oh. And so I don't remember if we talked about this in the syllabus episode or not, but Brandon Sanderson, almost all of his books that don't deal with Earth take place in a place called the Cosmere, and the Cosmere is sort of his shared universe. And so there is every different story kind of happens on a planet, and so they've made a big deal several times now about Tress's planet. And you might have noticed that they kind of have this concept of planets. But so like Mistborn takes place on a different planet. Stormlight Archives takes place on a different planet. But they're all in the same universe, and there are shared characters. And there is kind of a secret story behind the story that is not important for you to like understand or know to read any particular thing. But the point being is that his video this past week was about his suggested reading order of all his series, so that you could kind of see the secret story as intended. And you can read them in any particular order. Yeah. There really is no difference, because each story is self-contained. So.
And I'll say, I have only listened to snippets of another one of his books of another series that all happened in the Cosmere. And it was fascinating. I did not hear the whole novel. I probably heard maybe half of it, just on different road trips and stuff that we were on. Very interesting. Yeah. And Shelby points out that she noticed that this book is Cosmere number 28 or something like that. Yeah, there's a ton.
Now, that being said, I kind of was saying that because Tress is one of the books that he suggests reading earliest. If I'm
Well,
not,
lucky us.
yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, there's one series he suggests reading before. I think it's Mistborn, the one we listened to,
Okay.
and then I think Tress was the very next thing. Anyway, the point being, in no way does this ruin that secret story, and I'm going to talk about some things that I've noticed
Okay.
that are similar between, because it just doesn't.
Because
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
And it'll
matter.
be something fun if they choose
Yeah.
to.
Well, and that's the point, right? You pick up on that secret story in, or so like even if you didn't, there's no way in your first book to know that there's like a secret
Right.
story, right? And it's not really that secret. But then when you read your second one, you're like, hang on a second, what's
Yeah.
up with that?
Yeah.
And then you
Very
start
cool.
noticing it everywhere. Yeah.
Very cool. So Peggy says that so far she feels like she's not in the book, but it's cute and she likes the pictures.
Yeah. So are you doing an audiobook?
Yes.
Yeah. So the print version actually has pictures.
It does. I
Yeah.
noticed because I was reading a little bit of the
Yeah.
print version yesterday.
Yeah. You know, this book you might have noticed is not on Audible. And I need to go back and do my research for that. But Brandon Sanderson is sort of protesting how Audible treats, or Amazon maybe generally, I'm not sure.
He's on Amazon.
Yeah, so maybe it's just Audible.
Kindle and
Yeah. Anyway, how they treat new authors and how much money they take from them instead of giving them their fair share. And so it's a little difficult to find the audiobooks sometimes because they're not available through the normal methods. But yeah, let's talk about the book.
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
So, okay, so the narrator in this book is the same narrator in the Mistborn book that I've also listened to. So it was very weird to hear him acting like this.
Uh-huh.
Because this is very different from how the other book is very serious.
Yeah.
There is no narrator with his own identity and personality.
Mm-hmm.
And the narrator in this book is some guy that got cursed, so he's talking about eating his toenails.
Yeah. So number one, that is true. That in this book, I feel like I can feel the author playing, like he is having a like literally
Yeah.
Brandon Sanderson. He is having a good time. He's
Yeah.
like cutting up in a
Well,
way
that's fun.
that he never does in his other books.
A healthier way to experiment than, say, what we saw in a previous book that we've read.
Everybody has to experiment in their
I
own
can't
ways.
get over. I'm still not over that.
Was that our
book.
last book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
We're
over
talking
it.
about Verity, if you aren't aware.
I'm not ready.
Anyway, so that I'm really enjoying that. However, the author is Hoyd, right? Or the narrator is Hoyd, who is this guy. And if you're paying attention to the things that he's saying, he mentioned several times that on a different planet at a different time he did things. Hoyd is sort of
Part of the secret?
the main character that you discover this hidden story from.
Okay, so he's in Mistborn too?
He is in Mistborn. If I'm not mistaken, they don't actually name him, and so that's kind of the catch with these books.
Yeah.
They describe him, and he does magic from one of the other series in the wrong series, and then you're like, oh, okay, got it. You know.
Yeah. So how's he traveling bippity boppity throughout the cosmos?
Well, I'm not going to get into that, right? Because you know that bit of information actually like is part of one of the stories, I suppose. You know, the how is all tied in, but the fact that there is one is really no secret. So, but yeah, so Hoyt is a lot of fun, and he always ends up in like weird situations. You know.
Yeah. So somehow he's on this little pirate ship, eating his toenails because of the sorcerer that Tress is trying to go see.
Yeah.
To get her fella back.
Yeah. Can we back up for a second and just talk about like what an interesting world?
Yeah.
You know, so like I picked the thumbnail for these videos with a giant moon and an ocean before I read anything, and like the moon works,
but the ocean.
but the ocean is not real, right? because it's a spore ocean.
How creepy.
Yeah, and the spores are coming down from the moons, right? So like there's something about the way the moons are, and like I imagine sort of like a chain of spores coming down, not like a literal chain, but like a flow of spores down to the planet from these moons. Like how weird.
How weird.
But like how cool. There was an anime that I watched like 20 years ago where something about like the moon got destroyed and part of it hit the earth, and there was like this sentient plant life that ended up taking over, and it was really cool. And that kind of reminds me of this concept.
It was fun seeing Tress learn that the spores can be more than just something she fears.
Mm-hmm.
That the things like that can also become tools and
Right.
can also become weapons.
Yeah, yeah,
And so that's an interesting, quick development that we've seen in her character.
yeah. You know, what's interesting is like the spores are arguably like the magic of this world so far, except that they are not magic, right? It's science, and there is a sorceress, whatever that means. So maybe she does magic. She definitely cursed Hoyd, so she does something. There's this talking rat dude.
Yeah, what's up with Templeton?
Yeah,
It's not his name. His
I
name
don't know
is
what's up with him.
something else.
So,
I keep calling him Templeton.
so there must be real magic somewhere, but nobody is like talking about magic outside of the sorceress, you know. So,
Yeah. Peggy asks, would you rather lose your sense of sight and taste, or your sense of humor and self, or your sense of fashion? Or
yeah, you know, if you lose your sense of sight and taste, at some point, I feel like you also lose your sense of humor and self, right? Like,
maybe
I mean, like at some point, it's just not funny anymore, right? Like, I don't know. That's a tough one.
that's just because we're Southerners and we like to eat.
Yeah.
We can't taste. What do we have?
I think it all kind of
Huck.
goes together.
Thank you, Shelby.
Yeah, his name is Huck. So yeah, but I just think the world is really cool. The idea they kind of explained to us how the ocean works because at first you're like, I mean, okay, sure, and the author or I guess Hoyd technically even says like, how do you know your world isn't the weird one where there's oceans of water? Right?
Yeah.
And sort of that breaking of that wall where he comes and
Yeah.
talks to you. I find helps the story actually be more believable because at first I was like, I mean, okay, this is cool, but like, and then he was like, hey man, come on, and I was like, okay, fair enough. Yeah. At one point though, he mentions showers, and I think that's really interesting because to me that implies he's been here. I don't think there's any books that Brandon Sanderson has written that I'm aware of that mention showers.
Showers.
Yeah.
Like people showers.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. At some point, Hoyd's mentioned taking a shower.
Yeah, Peggy says, to me the spores were scary because I have in my head the scary mold spores from the girl with all the gifts, spores that take over the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh says, I think the rat is just some guy cursed by the witch.
Yeah, I think so too.
So yeah, if there's only one talking rat in the world,
yeah,
surely it's not a rat.
or like what happens when he is this is there I have no evidence for this, but like what if he's the boyfriend?
I was wondering that too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like just because like what a weird thing, and it needs to come back around for some reason. It doesn't have to, but I would like it to, you know. Why were all the people on Tress's island not allowed off? What's the deal?
It doesn't say why.
It doesn't. Yeah, they're like cursed. They're not cursed, but like
No,
the law says you can't
says
take
you
anybody
can't.
from.
And so that means that like it's because there's something better out there, and they don't want to lose their income tax or something, you know, like.
And they have like a little salt line or whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
Someone in the chat, I'm sure, will tell us if we missed something there. What's up with the cups?
I thought it was cute. The whole suicidal butterfly thing I thought was kind of interesting because then she becomes that thing. It was a nice little foreshadowing. I thought that was cool.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's the island. The world is so cool, but the island is so dreary, right? Like it's described as like such a horrifying place to just get stuck.
Yeah, and it just might be that they're forced to stay there, like Shelby says, because there needs to be a place for the ships to stock up.
Yeah,
you need people to work.
Yeah,
and keep it going. That sucks.
Yeah.
I liked the cleverness of, is his name Charles? No. What's the boy, the Duke's son's name?
I've forgotten all the names.
But anyways, I thought it was clever, their idea that they came up with, where he was like, well, I won't marry any of them, and to prove it to you, I'll send you a cup for each one that I don't marry.
Yeah. Well, and his sort of like tactics to bore people, right?
It was really funny.
It was really funny. Yeah.
What a loquacious,
mm-hmm.
Isn't that the word?
Yeah.
Talkative, loquacious guy. She's like, my loquacious love.
Mm-hmm.
That was cute.
I think like the whole little love story, even though it's really short, right? Like we don't we miss all the part of them building up their relationship. Like, we turn up on the day they decide to tell each other they love each other, basically, right? Like, we skip
Yeah.
all the stuff that you would normally see. And but I feel like it works, right? Like, you instantly feel like, okay, well, this is real. And like, the dad is sort of being set up as this bad guy or whatever. And
Should have brought home a whole other
Yeah.
heir.
Yeah.
Wow.
so the other heir, there is a line in there that I just thought was absolutely hilarious, and I've been telling a lot of people about it because Tress's mom, maybe, or somebody says, well, he must be very brave because he lost 10,000 soldiers at the Battle of such and such.
Yeah.
And that is hilarious because we really talk like that.
Yeah.
And I love when books, like, turn things on there, like, and they show you just how utterly ridiculous it is. Napoleon was a great general, right? Well, like, why? Well, he because he won this battle. Like, okay, yeah, but like, he lost, however many people. And,
Right.
I went and saw the new Dune movie this past week, and we were talking about how Leto Atreides, knows that this is a trap, but his honor says that he must go and go die. And, like, that's cool, man, do your thing. But you took, like, everybody with you, and that's not cool. Like, they don't have to die for your honor. That's bizarre, but we do that.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and speaking of, like, the way that Brandon Sanderson, like, twists words and stuff like that. Also, talking about both Charlie, thank you, whoever pointed out that his name was Charlie, and Tress, they have a way with the words. And with Tress, is that her words get away from her. Like, she can't ever say the things. And then I don't remember how he did it for Charlie, but it was... Oh, I can't remember. But it was funny, like, oh, you have such a way with words, but he, like, used that phrase and twisted it 2 different ways.
Yeah.
It was cute.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, Josh is saying he loves how sassy Hoyd is, and I agree. And so Hoyd, at one point, and this is no spoiler, I don't think. At one point, Hoyd says that he lost his sense of wit, and that was, like, the thing he missed the most. And that is very important because Hoyd's sense of wit, in particular, is sort of what he's known for throughout the universe. He always finds himself in a situation where he is supposed to be funny or is supposed to be providing sort of like comic relief. And so if you like that aspect, whenever you find a character who is supposed to be funny, you should, in other books, you should ask yourself, like, what other attributes does this have, and is this Hoyd? Because half the time it is. So.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And let's see, in the first just couple of minutes of the book, I really liked that the author said something about, men that compare features of women to, like, edible things, you need to stay away from them, right? Like, they're dangerous. That's a good point.
Yeah. And so he says women are, stay away from people who compare women to food. But then later on, somebody compares men to something else, and I thought that was funny.
I didn't catch that.
Man, and I'm forgetting now what it was. I should have taken better notes. I'm sorry. But yeah, at some point, like, sort of the opposite happens, and I was just like, "Huh, that's clever."
Okay, so I was holding my breath when Tress was walking on the ocean.
Oh yeah, that part was crazy.
Ugh.
Yeah. They describe the vines as growing like lightning, right? Like, it's not there and then it's there.
Yeah, it's crazy fast.
Yeah, and so, like, if it got in you, it would just blow out your eyeballs or whatever. That's kind of...
Yeah, she had some vision of vines growing through her nasal passages and stuff. Like, it gets very graphic, but it happens so fast and then moves on. They was like, okay.
I think the pirate ship is really cool. There is something going on, and part of the reason I mentioned the Cosmere and all this book stuff is whoever the ship's merchant, whatever the real thing, the inventory guy, The deaf guy. There's a deaf guy. Ford.
Yeah,
Fort.
Fort.
Yeah, whoever Fort got that tablet from is most definitely a dude from another planet.
Oh yeah,
like 100%, right?
Yeah.
But like that part's really cool, and I'm really enjoying kind of seeing the pirate ship and all that, and how clever the captain thinks she is. But Tress kind of like outsmarts her and kind of calls her bluff. But like, what's going on there? Why does she want to go somewhere nobody else will go? That's going to
Yeah.
play in our next reading, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, what's going on, and why do they have the hidden cannons that really will
Well, they have the hidden
destroy?
cannonballs because the ship, everybody else doesn't want to kill anybody,
Right.
but she does.
So weird.
Because what she's trying to do is she's trying to tie everybody to her, so they can't ever leave the ship, and then they'll just go wherever she says they need to go.
Yikes.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested to see, like, so now we know there's the Vine Sea, there's the Zephyr Sea, which is the one that gives you the wind spores. Then there's something that gives us these crystals.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a sea where the spores are crystals.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but what are the other ones? I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, quartermaster. That's the word I was looking for. Why couldn't I do that?
And then it's cool that Anne or whatever has her steering the ship, and
Yeah.
that was really neat. And so now our girl Tress really has a proper job.
Yeah.
As the spore wielder or whatever.
I mean, like, imagine you've lived your whole life. You're 18 years old or whatever, and you've lived on this like black rock island with like no plants whatsoever, and you're just hanging out washing windows and stuff. Your boyfriend disappears for 6 months, and then you decide you're going to commit crimes and become a wizard. Right? How crazy is that? It's so fast, right? Because Tress really hasn't been gone.
I mean, she's been on like a week.
Like at most,
Yeah.
It's been a week.
Yeah.
The Rose Sea, yeah, that's the one that has the crystals.
Maybe the captain also lost someone in the midnight seas. It'd be funny to have another Book of Mom Trom.
I'm kind of leaning that way. That's
What if that's Charlie's mom?
Charlie's mom?
She going out looking for her son.
It could be. I doubt it, but it could be.
I'm just saying. All we hear is about his dad. We don't hear nothing about his mom.
Yeah. Well, and then like the king or whatever is trying to start a war with. The sorceress is pitched to us as this evil person because she's casting spells on people and everything. But also, like, the king is trying to start a war with her. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem to be like I'm going to do this offensive war for defensive purposes, right? Like, it doesn't seem like that. He kind of seems like a bad guy, partially because he sent Charlie to his death. And so, what happens when we find out, almost like a Wicked sort of thing, where, like, the sorceress is not really the bad person. That'd be refreshing. I'd like that.
Yeah. Do you think we will actually see the sorceress? Or will it be an unknown entity?
I don't know. I think we will.
Do you think you'll recognize the sorceress from another book?
Oh, I don't know. I want to go to one of the moons.
Yeah?
That's what I want to do. I want to know what's making these spores. Like, what's up with that? Why is this happening? Because that's weird. Let's go to a moon.
And how do they make it all the way from the moon to the surface of a planet?
My science headcanon says that it has something to do with tides, right? And that something about the gravitational pull or something, the spores, almost like a tide on the moon, are being pulled to the earth.
Yeah, but how wouldn't they burn up or?
Yeah. Well, so I mean,
they're light. How do they not get blown away?
Yeah. That brings up a good question, though, right? Like, if the spore columns, if the spores are always falling from the moons, then why hasn't the world just been totally absorbed by spores by this point? Like, where does it all go? I don't know.
So I don't think they're maybe falling so much as they're being pumped.
Interesting.
Most of the main characters, protagonists and antagonists so far, are pretty equal in gender. I really like that the important jobs on the ship are women.
Yeah.
And she's even called a It's always called the helmswoman.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a helmsman.
Yeah.
The job is helmswoman.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Brandon Sanderson really does a good job of that, where a lot of his main characters are women. In the Mistborn trilogy, the main character is a woman, and she really drives the whole thing. And it's cool because she's also like a thief. That's kind of the if you're looking for like a fantasy heist book, the first Mistborn is really interesting. But yeah, it's cool, right? Because so often we get these like call to this is like a true call to adventure story, right? You know, and there's I won't get into it now, but like I'm just thinking like all the different stages that we've kind of hit along the way. But that call to adventure is so often a dude. And dudes are supposed to be the adventurous ones or whatever. That was one of the things, right? They somebody mentioned it earlier where he calls Charlie calls Tress a fair maiden, and she says, "It must be so boring to be one of these maidens because you spend the whole story locked in a tower until like somebody comes to get you, and every once in a while you just call for help, right?" And then Charlie is the maiden.
Yeah.
Right? Like the author just told you this thing and then did the thing, but inverted it. And I just love that. I really do.
Yeah. What if the sorceress is the king's sister or something? No, this is just gender politics.
Could be.
And then maybe they're moonbeams. The spores coming down. They use the phrase moon shadows in the book a lot. And so the whole time that I've been reading, I've had Cat Stevens, or the artist formerly known as Cat Stevens, Moon Shadows stuck in my head. I'm being followed by a moon shadow.
I think it's cool because like basically what we're talking about is an eclipse, right? Because it's the sun, the moon is passing in front of the sun, and there's like 7 moons or whatever the deal is. And it reminds me of Three Body a little bit, sort of just like this concept of
how many bodies there are.
Well, and then because she's only ever been, and I think they said that the moons are basically stationary, right? Like they're in a synchronous orbit, maybe I think is what you call it, right? Where like the Earth is turning, but the thing is moving at the same speed, right? Like what we do with satellites sometimes. We'll stick them up so they'll always follow the same spot. And because Tress has always seen the moon in the same position, right? Like it never moves. And then because she's like sailing around now, the moon looks funny because she's at like a different place in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But like most of our first readings, I don't really have all that much to say yet, right? Like because we're just like learning about the world
it's just
and everything.
it's all questions.
Yeah,
Who is this
questions.
and why is this and Yeah.
I enjoyed the scene where Tress's father calls in all the favors without calling in any favors. That was cool.
Yeah. And it was a clever path for her to get onto the boat.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but she wasn't in that whiskey barrel.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
She just walked on board in her red coat.
Yep. That was good.
I mean, it's just a very entertaining way of telling a story, with a silly narrator who seems to have it together enough to tell the story, even though when we see him in the story, he's out of his mind.
Let's talk about a character that must be from somewhere else in the universe, but I don't recognize.
The Doctor?
Ulam.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I can't even understand what he looks like. I haven't really described him.
Yeah, I don't really... They call him a zombie. They call him dead. I see him more as like a vampire, really.
But 2 heads?
Does he have 2 heads?
I don't know. Doesn't he?
I don't think he has 2 heads. Does he have 2 heads?
Something about a serpent
What?
with 2 heads.
But his whole like eating corpses thing, and everybody's like kind of cool with it. And I think Hoyd mentions, right? And so when you know that Hoyd is a person who has traveled the universe, and he thinks like Ulam left him there, and like just laughed while he played pirate, while Hoyd had no sense of self and humor or whatever. There's that comment.
In Hoyd's own jacket.
Yeah, so then he must be from somewhere else. And then I wonder, like, well, what if whatever Ulam is from has never even been written yet? And like how interesting that would be to sort of introduce a character early,
The Doctor had, past tense, 2 heads. He was a snake for a while.
Yeah, because he can change shape.
Eat stuff with 2 heads. Oh, no.
Yeah, some kind of shapeshifter. There are sort of shapeshifters in one other book that I'm aware of. But the way that he is described...
Is it the puddle?
Yeah. The way he's described is not the same way. And so I'm not sure that he's one of those.
Yeah, maybe he is what he eats.
Yeah.
Because you are what you eat.
He like tried to trade eyeballs. She's like, he wants my eyes.
Poor Tress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how strange.
Shelby made some comparison to the Little Mermaid, but I'm not sure what.
The king's sister. Or Ursula in the Mermaid King. Poseidon? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, they were siblings? And the...
I don't know.
That was my favorite movie as a kid. I couldn't tell you what it was about, other than... That's all I know. I know the songs.
I don't know that I've ever seen it.
Well, I'm interested. It's a weird book. The narrator kind of reminds me of like a mix between Lemony Snicket and the narrator from Anansi Boys.
Mm-hmm. And I've been saying it reminds me of sort of like Good Omens, in sort of like the banter, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Shelby says, I hope that Tress gets to go to a few new islands. Like, I want to see more of the world.
Yeah.
For sure. And I want to see all the different spores and what she learns how to do with them.
Yeah.
Like, I think it'd be really cool if she just becomes this amazing spore wielder. And she becomes, you know, powerful and feared and able to do great things because she tackled her fear.
Yeah.
Poor little baby almost got her face blown off.
What if she like gets to this point of like trying to go find Charlie, but she changes so much and becomes her own person so much that she's like, I'm good, Charlie. I don't need all this.
I mean, maybe she'll go free him, but she'll be like, you know,
I'm a pirate now.
more to the world that I want. Yeah. But I mean, nothing's tying him to home. Mm-hmm. His dad done traded him in for a different heir.
Yep. Which is kind of liberating in a way, but.
Well, yeah, because he didn't seem to want to be a duke.
Yeah. Not at that place. I'm really enjoying this book, I think, because we've read like so many serious books recently that just sort of the humor of it is really nice.
I needed something very different after Verity.
Yeah.
No way Charlie would make it on a pirate ship. He would annoy people so fast. Poor buddy.
Honestly, he's a liability if you're committing crimes.
Just talking. He's a Hagrid.
Yeah, you know? He's just going to tell everybody.
Accidentally tell all the secrets. Oh, shouldn't have mentioned that.
Yep. It's a very common thing.
Should not have said that. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what this next part brings us, where it leaves us.
Yeah.
Kind of dangerous. Do you think this quiet mutiny will work?
I don't know. I really have no good guesses about this book. Yeah.
I feel like we haven't read enough to be able to make any guesses.
What if Tress becomes the captain?
That's kind of what I'm wondering.
Yeah. I don't know why anybody else would pick her. She has no sailing experience. I guess you don't have to be a captain, technically.
Yeah.
You probably should, but you don't have to. I don't know. Hey, Shelby started Children of Time.
Going to watch episode 1 after this. Is there a show?
No, episode 1 of our show.
Oh! Yeah. Sorry.
Children of Time is great.
Man, it was so good.
Yeah, it's so good.
Peggy says yay. I have almost started reading the next book in the series a couple of times.
Well, I know it's been like semi not recommended to us, but like when has that ever stopped us?
Yeah.
We read Deception Point.
Yeah, who told us not to do it? Peggy told us not to do it.
Deception Point?
Yeah.
We did it.
Who else told us not to do it?
Peggy's smart.
Yeah. There's always Flanders panel.
Yeah, that's true.
I woke up this morning with like wham bang in my head.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't like why. Why?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pointing. You can barely see it. It's like right.
We will next week have to get Nicole's pick for the next book.
I've got some thoughts. There's some things on the list that have been on the list for a bit that I keep kind of skirting around. So.
Yeah. There was something, The Mountain and the Sea, was the book we read before Verity, and Shelby Peggy just mentioned Octopi. And there was some book that I almost picked for this reading that was basically The Mountain and the Sea, just like different. And I didn't pick it because I felt like it was probably too similar. But whatever that was.
The book coming. After Children of Time, I think, has...
It's about Octopi.
Octopus in it, yeah. Yeah. There's just so much to read in so little time. So speaking of which, if you have recommendations, please pop those in the comment box for us so we can add them to our list. And Peggy just so reminded everyone that I picked Verity. So yep. I mean, did we not like Verity?
I enjoyed it. It was weird. I enjoyed it.
I loved hating it. You know what I mean? Like, it was good, but it really messed me up.
I can't remember the last time a book actually scared me, and that book actually scared me.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think I have much else to say about this particular reading, other than I am very much enjoying it. And y'all know me. I'm a sucker for, like, different worlds. And so just learning about the world and being able to explore that is, like, what I'm here for.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, y'all remember that if you're interested in anything else by Brandon Sanderson, you can go to his YouTube channel and find his 2024 version of his reading list. They're not difficult books, but they're all rather large compared to Tress. This is very, very small for him. So
yeah, there's a lot to them.
Yeah.
They're dense books.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've listened to some just like I picked it up in the middle of it and just popped right in, and it was so fascinating.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you have anything else you want to say?
I think that's all I've got. If you guys think of anything else to say, pop it in the chat. Catch us on Good Reads. You can always pick up the conversation there. And thank you guys so much for being here. And it was nice seeing Josh also. Welcome, Josh.
Yep. And y'all remember that for the next week, we are reading through chapter 43, which is titled The Musician.
Good job.
It's right there.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
I don't know. I hit a button.
Oh, look at us learning new things. Yep. Learn how to use the old YouTubes.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. Thanks for being back.
Reading.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Your little swoop.